Okay, so in this video, we are still going to be using our three trig functions, our sine, cosine, and tangent. What's going to be different is you're going to be creating the picture, okay? So instead of the triangle and all the information being on your paper ready to go, you're going to be presented with a word problem. And that word problem is going to let you draw and label the picture and then use the trig function to find what they're asking for. The nice thing is the vast majority of these problems are going to use one of two key words. They're either going to use an angle of elevation or an angle of depression. And which one they use is going to help you determine which way to draw your triangle, and that will help you put the information on it. So if we first look at an angle of depression, you want to think of depression as coming down. So your right angle and that horizontal line is sort of up in the sky, and that angle of depression is coming down from the sky and is sort of connecting you down as far as it needs to go. Okay? One thing that I do want to point out when it comes to a right triangle is any right triangle can technically be made into a rectangle. I could draw this side and I could go across the bottom here, right? And technically I can make this into a rectangle. And what you should notice is that the bottom would always be the same length as the top. The left and the right would always be the same. So if for some reason they give you an angle of depression problem, but it feels like you should be putting something on the ground, remember the ground and the sky, let's call it, would have the same length. If you're asked to measure horizontally from left to right, it's the same whether you do it on the ground or you do it up in the air, okay? So example here says a salvage ship uses sonar to determine the angle of depression. So I'm actually gonna stop right there and it says, hey, angle of depression. I know I need a right triangle, right? And I know that I need it so that that horizontal side is up in the sky, and I can put my right angle right there into it, okay? So far I've got the start to my picture, okay? It says the angle of depression is 13.25 degrees. Okay, so that tells me 13.25 is my angle, so I'm gonna slide that right in to the angle. So the angle of depression is 13.25 degrees to a wreck on the ocean floor that is 40 meters below the surface. Well, when we measure how deep something is, think about what direction you would measure. Would you measure how deep something is on an angle, or would you measure how deep something is straight down? We would want that measurement to be straight down. So my 40 meters should go on my vertical side. How far must a diver lowered from the salvage ship walk along the ocean floor to reach the wreck? So if this is where my boat is and I lower a person and I want them to walk along the floor, this is what I was saying above. If I want to walk along the floor, I would measure that same distance horizontally. So my X is going to be that horizontal side, okay? And so at this point, this now turns into a problem just like our previous videos, that now I can go about labeling my sides and solving. So here's my right angle, across the way is hypotenuse, which is empty. My 13.25, this would be my opposite side. This is going to be my adjacent side. And opposite and adjacent tells me that I need to use tangent. So the tangent of 13.25 equals opposite over adjacent. And so once again, you can multiply both sides by x. You can divide both sides by the tangent of 13.25. Okay, and you're welcome to show those steps if you are sort of coming to this understanding that, hey, every time x is on the bottom of my fraction, it sort of just swaps places with what's on the other side of the equal sign. And you sort of want to just go right ahead and say, I know this is going to equal x equals 40 over the tangent of 13.25. I'm fine with that. I don't necessarily need to see the steps in between, but do what works best for you, right? And so as always, use a calculator. I can put in 40 divided by, we want our tangent, 13.25. And here we're looking at 169.8739, etc. We are finding a side to our triangle, so we'll keep the same rules and go nearest tenth. So the 7's going to bump my 8 up to a 9. So we're looking at 169.9. And we are talking a word problem here. So x equals 169.9. What was my unit? My unit was meters. So let's also make sure that we put meters down as a unit. Okay. So if we're talking an angle of depression, horizontal line up at the top, the angle comes down from the sky. Okay. An angle of elevation, if you look at the bottom here, elevation means it's coming up. So now my horizontal line will be at the bottom. The angle is the angle that's coming up, making that hypotenuse sort of extend up into the sky as far as it needs to. So when it says find the angle of elevation of the sun when a 7.6 meter flagpole casts an 18.2 meter shadow. So once again here, I'm going to make a triangle. It doesn't matter which side you put the right angle on. My drawing tool sort of automatically does this one way, but if you like the other one down here, that's fine, right? But we've got our right triangle. Okay. Find the angle of elevation. So find the angle, meaning find the angle, that's my x. When a 7.6 meter flagpole, well, when you look outside, what direction do flagpoles go? Flagpoles should be straight up and down, right? Think about the flagpole outside East High. So there's my 7.6 meter flagpole, casts an 18.2 meter shadow. So take a moment and think, where are shadows? I hope you're thinking, well, a shadow should be down here on the ground. Quite frankly, if your shadow is halfway between the ground and floating somewhere in midair, it's a horror movie and you should run the other direction, okay? Shadows go on the ground, so we put our 18.2 meter shadow on the ground. Just gotta slide this over for some space. Let's label what we're looking at. So again, my hypotenuse is empty. I'm looking at opposite and adjacent, so I am looking at tangent. Just like the previous videos, remember, it's not that one type of trig function is more common than another. It all just depends upon the specific questions you're looking at. So we're looking at tangent of x this time, opposite over adjacent, so 7.6 over 18.2. Remember, this is where we are going to use our inverse or our tangent with a -1 so that we can find an angle measure. Oops, 18.2. There we go. And so with that, use that calculator. So I can pull that up here, right? I'm gonna go use my tangent of -1. We've got a 7.6 divided by 18.2. This is an angle. We want angles to the nearest whole degree. So 22.6, 6 is going to round us up, and we are going to say that this is a 23-degree angle. Okay. So there we go. So the next video that's in this lesson is just going to be a couple more examples with word problems. Each one will set the picture up and we'll solve. Again, you'd have the opportunity to hit pause and work on them yourself first if you'd like.